Hello, everyone, and welcome to the No Name Podcast. I am The Seeker.
And I'm Nightshade. So basically, just a small introduction of Nightshade, as in me. I'm studying right now. I'm a student doing pre-medical, blah 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 blah. I love reading and writing. Actually, I am writing my own Percy Jackson fan fiction, which basically correlates to our topic today. We'll get to that later. Other than that, I color and spend my time doing weird things. But yeah, that's me. On to you, Seeker. Who are you?
I am another student. I am a pre-engineering student, and I also enjoy books. I also enjoy reading, and that's it basically. I don't watch movies much. I could. So
Okay,
this podcast was started when we decided we wanted to do a podcast.
He bought a mic and we just started.
I bought a mic and
We aren't using that mic, by the way. We're
yeah.
using a small collar mic because that mic was glitching out as hell.
Yeah. We decided we wanted to do a podcast about Percy Jackson.
Probably
Other novels as
we
well.
won't have any topic. Like, it won't even be novels only. It'll be whatever we feel like,
Yeah,
actually.
it's anything in the world of Percy Jackson
Or any
and
word.
potentially other stuff.
Basically, you guys get to listen to us ranting about everything.
Books, about stories, about maybe other things. We are so unprepared, you have no idea.
Like, people have scripts, we are laying down and
We are laying down in a hot makeshift setup filled with pillows. And
oh, by the way,
Just doing
before we
things.
continue, shout out to the pillows. Goated, man. There is no echo in this room. This is like we've done a few test runs with our mic just to see if we've got any echo, and we couldn't notice anything. I mean, it's not as high quality as all the studio rooms with the boom arm and all, but it is.
we've basically built a room here. It's a room built with pillows. It's so cool.
Thank God neither of us have claustrophobia, at least.
Yeah.
Or else you would be frightened as hell.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
a small room.
This is really small. But we
works.
just want to advertise pillows for a bit because pillows are cool.
While on the topic of things starting with P, potatoes are also cool. Like, potatoes work on everything. Like, the number of dishes you can have with potatoes.
You know what else is cool?
What?
Percy Jackson. Let's get into it.
Exactly, yeah. P is our topic, man. Forget Percy Jackson. P. Everything to do. Okay, let's.
Today we decided we'll talk about Percy Jackson fan theories that people have had and talk about how realistic they are. And
By the way, if I get my way, we'll transition into talking about my fan fiction, which I love talking about. Anyways, continuing on.
so the first fan theory we have here, that heaven is one plane and that sections of that plane are under different pantheon jurisdictions. Which means there is one plane of the afterlife and a section of that is Hades, which is like the underworld in Greek mythology. One of them is like the Duat. One of them, like a section of that is like whatever Asgard, I think it is in Magnus. I don't recall.
I guess it was Valhalla specifically.
Valhalla is in Asgard too.
Yeah, but no, Asgard is like the home of the gods. Valhalla is the home of the Inherjar.
Right, but so you're
I
saying...
butchered that pronunciation,
Yeah, I
please.
don't know the
But Inherjar, I guess.
But isn't Asgard isn't Valhalla in
No, because okay, so in Norse mythology, you've got the 9 realms, which are off the top of my head: Midgard, Jotunheim, Asgard, Helheim, Alfheim, Svartalfheim. Oh no, wait, they might. Okay, it's not Alfheim.
It's no Svartalfheim is where dwarves are, I think.
Yeah, and then there's Alfheim, which is where
Elzar. I can't remember. Genuinely.
Yeah,
Who
it is with an A. It is
Who
with an A.
remembers Magnus Chase?
Fair enough, yeah. The only scene I remember of Magnus Chase is the one where he's diving and Percy's there in the start of the 3rd book.
Yeah, that's because there's Percy there.
Exactly. Right, we're back on topics. Things
Anyways,
starting with
so
P.
Back to heaven. You go to a section of heaven of which pantheon you are believed to be living in. For instance, Elysium is a section of heaven where good people in the Greek jurisdiction go. Same with good people in the Norse jurisdiction going to Odin's Valhalla.
Here's the issue with that.
Alright.
Physically, it doesn't make sense.
Go on.
So if you remember this, okay, I know we all said no one remembers Magnus Chase, but I do remember a bit of Magnus Chase. When Sam's betrothed, whose name I do not remember, was being brought into the whole world, they were jumping up. Right?
Right.
And underworld, as in the name, is under.
Right.
So you can't say they're in the same plane unless they mean plane of existence.
Yeah, I assume they mean plane of existence. No, hang on. By that regard, everything is in the same plane, right?
Right, but my thought went to like same plane of like geometric plane, and there were just like borders in between them. Like, you know how in suburbs you've got those houses, so each house is like a heaven, and then you've got the fence in between each house.
I don't think you can have geometric planes just because. Well, first off, we know that in Norse mythology there's like 9 realms. Obviously,
Forget that. Egyptian mythology, you've got the duat.
Yeah,
how does that go? Like, where is that actually?
We do have some information about a correlation between the mythologies. If I remember correctly, in Son of Sobek, no, hang on, not that one. In one of the 3 crossover books of Kane Chronicles and Percy Jackson, they say that the mist and the duat are relatively similar, or that the mist is the first level of the duat, or something.
That would be
like
that.
So
I haven't. I don't remember those books, but that is an interesting point actually.
Because if that is true, and the duat cannot be on the same plane.
And anyways, if we're taking the duat to be heaven, are we taking the mist to be first level of heaven?
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense.
I don't know exactly where that is. Like,
yeah, I think okay. So this whole theory is trying to relate how the pantheons deal with each other, right?
Yes.
So I think a better way is.
Oh, but there's one more thing I just realized. In the first book, there is a preacher who goes to the afterlife in the Greek afterlife, even though he doesn't believe in the Greek myths. And Grover says he probably sees something different. So it's not like they're in sectioned off plane, a section of areas in the same plane, but rather in the same exact location, but seeing different things. Like,
that would not make sense, because then, like, if you're walking into a wall, but then you're not seeing a wall.
Do you think
I'm thinking of it as like a VR scenario,
right?
Because like in VR, you might not see a wall, but you're walking into a wall.
Right.
Can confirm that hurts.
I do think that we know the afterlife doesn't follow normal mortal rules. It's not.
In Percy Jackson, at the very least, it does. Like, as normal as you can get when you've got demigods.
No, I'm thinking of the fact that like celestial bones can't hurt mortals. So maybe Greek walls cannot stop Norse people. You know what I mean?
Okay, so what about the non-Norse, non-Egyptian, non-Greek people?
Do they just like see black?
Or, okay, what about the Muslims? What does Sam see? Does she see the Norse part? Or does she see the Muslim part? Because, okay, then what would the Muslim part be? Just a heads up, we are Muslims. So we've got the whole in the grave, and you've got your punishment and / reward in there.
So there's one section in the grave where you have like small punishment, small reward. And then you go into heaven itself where there's big punishment, big reward.
Heaven / hell, yeah.
That's simplified. Yeah.
Basically, the grave part, we call it Barzakh. So would she see Barzakh right after death, or would she see Valhalla? But okay.
Maybe. If we say, and this is drawing conclusions that will make people angry, then if we say that Ragnarok is the same as
the Day of Judgment?
The Day of Judgment. Or pre-Day of Judgment.
Right, that could be valid. We've got war and all of that,
In Christianity, I believe it's called the Antichrist.
Christ.
No, Antichrist is the guy. The event itself has a different name.
Right.
I cannot remember right now. But like that's the idea, right? There's the same war. It just has different people saying different things about it.
So then Valhalla would be the good equivalent of Barzakh?
I would think so. Or not the good version, just like the fighter version.
No, I guess it would be the good version, because Valhalla is far better than Helheim, which is the bad version, you could say.
But generally, you only go to Valhalla if you died fighting. So
what about
I guess
Freyr's version?
If Sam dies fighting, she goes to Valhalla, I think. If she does not die fighting, she goes to the Muslim good Barzakh.
That's like selective.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think that's how it would work.
Right. So if we're saying Barzakh exists in the same exact place as Valhalla, just people see different things. No, that can't be true. Because we don't see anyone in Valhalla who's not Norse and hasn't died fighting. Like, there's no...
I think the simplest way to explain all of this is the pantheons do not mix in any way, shape or form.
Yes.
The non-believers, like the people who don't believe in Egyptian or Greek or Roman or whatever, just go into the one where they're living in the vicinity of, I guess.
Right.
If you're living in New York, Maine, like near the Empire State Building, Yeah, you're now in the underworld fields of asphodel. You didn't believe in the gods.
That
Blah.
does make sense. That is-
And
maybe,
then
or maybe if you're like, because we know in Percy Jackson the metaphysical and the physical are different, which means capital G God, which is like the Muslim and the Christian and the Abrahamic God, basically, he is a higher power than all of these smaller Greek, Norse, etc. gods. Let's just we see it with Sam. and
right,
being
but
Muslim.
that's a bit.
But anyways, the point is, I think if you have a larger god, that's the default. If you're an atheist, for instance, then either you go to the one you believe in, like Norse, Egyptian.
But they don't believe in
etc.
atheists. Like that's
No,
the
like,
point.
because like Percy Jackson is an atheist, but also knows about the gods. Right?
Is Percy?
Yeah, he says he's an atheist. Or is it one of the main characters in one of the books says they're an atheist? I believe that is Percy. But the
I
point
don't
is,
remember it being Percy.
I do think it said somewhere.
Someone.
Right. So if you're an atheist but have no beliefs, you just go to whatever's closest. If you are an atheist and have beliefs, you go to what you believe in. And finally, if you're an atheist and don't have beliefs and go to the nearest thing, you still see what you expect to see. So you don't see Hades, but you are in Hades.
So they just see black because that's what an atheist.
Because
would
that's what
expect to
Grover
see.
says, right? The guy sees what he thinks he will see. But
I
since he-
think that means on a personal memory level.
perhaps.
Like, you know how Hazel had visions of the Giant's rebirth? So on a more personal level.
So are they just dreaming, you're saying? Like reliving their memories?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Maybe, yeah. That makes
But okay, on another note, they do say that no one remembers anything.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Maybe they
Unless
don't
in an
remember it was them.
If you don't remember, but that's only Greek, right? Like, do Egyptian souls remember where they were? I can't remember. That's the case.
Again, we don't have as much info on Egyptian and Norse, at least from Percy Jackson, and we have not studied the true mythologies. This is all Rick's
It's
interpretation.
all Rick, by the way. If someone's there like, oh no, but in Homer it says we don't know Homer, we just know Rick Riordan.
He's quoted at mythology writing, except for right at the end. I'm sorry to whoever doesn't like this, but those last 3 books, in fact, including some of the ending books of Trials of Apollo, the last 2,
I like Trials of Apollo, but after
They're
that,
good.
I think
Trials of Apollo is good,
Yeah.
but after the peak that was the House of Hades,
yeah.
there's nothing that's
Also,
beating
I feel
Tartarus.
like Rick's writing has changed since Trials of. I am a fan of his old style, and so I will always see the new books with a bit of contempt. That's just me,
But
though.
his brother, the Seeker's brother, loves the new books.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like I, as a kid, read his old writing and loved it, and so his new writing seems foreign to me.
I would probably love the new writing. Like if I was a kid reading them for the first time, the chapter names, the jokes in the. So I've only read the first of that new trilogy basically, and I would love the jokes and the. I think there's a reference to the first book, flushing down the toilet, something.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I would love that actually.
yeah. It's just I am a little bit older now, and I don't like that. To me, I think Rick's attempts at making the worlds come together, I would say they're good. Their efforts.
The best one you've got is the Magnus Chase third book starting.
Yeah.
The Son of Sobek and those crossovers are dog shit.
Yeah, he has tried hard, but the
It's
issue
so
is
hard to explain, right?
there's such fundamentally different mythologies that you just cannot.
And he tried to explain the mist with the duat, and that's just it weirds it out, right? It
Yeah.
makes less sense as you go instead of making more, which is what he was trying to do.
I think it's just best to say.
I think his
They're all
explanation in the first Kane Chronicles book, the Red Pyramid, where Amos said to the Kanes that side of the river is a different pantheon, stay away.
that was good.
That was the perfect way of explaining it. Those guys bad, just we are our own people.
Essentially, we're saying we're all different planes of existence or different
Not
existences
planes.
entirely.
Like exactly how the Roman and the Greek mythologies were able to move together for so many years. They
has
were
to be
able to mix because they were basically Roman was built on Greek. But
Yeah.
if they weren't built on each other, what would happen is they could still coexist, right?
Yeah, as separate things.
Right. So that's what the best way to explain all these mythologies, where you don't have them interacting.
Yeah. Since we know they do coexist, it does raise the question of whether, for say Celestial Bronze works on Egyptian immortals. And to be fair, the Son of Sobek did a good job with that. Which is like, No, our immortals are different.
I don't
These
think
are
so. Here's
different
why.
pantheons.
But I don't think so. Here's
Okay,
why.
go
Because in each of the pantheons, the top hierarchy is the god, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, not
seeing
really.
as
In Egyptian mythology, for instance,
who do you have above the gods?
like Chaos Apophis itself.
So you've also got like chaos
And then
in
you also-
Greek.
Yeah, I guess you do have that, like the primordial guys.
Gods are basically on the same level, like relative to each other.
Yeah, I think so too. Although,
So
again,
in that case, if your celestial bronze is powerful enough to hurt a god in the Greek mythology, who is on the relatively the same power as the god in Egyptian mythology, why should we not expect that to work on Egyptian mythology?
because I think it is said, like in Greek mythology at least, the gods have physical forms, and they also have like divine forms, and the divine form does also have a physical presence. Whereas in Egyptian mythology, gods aren't physical; they're completely like duad-based.
yeah.
They're completely duad-based spirits, and they need a mortal host to be able to host them.
Right.
So, for instance, in the PGO series,
In that case, I
Kronos,
think the celestial bronze working or not would be dependent on the host.
and certainly we're talking about them colluding again. See, that's the issue, right? That's the issue with having to answer these questions is you need to have some sort of overlap to say, no, this is an objective focal point. So, for instance,
But we
to
don't
say-
have that.
So, for instance, to say, objectively, if you have a presence in the mortal world, then you are a mortal to some extent. Okay, here's a question.
But what if
Celestial bronze-
what if an Egyptian god possessed a Greek demigod? Would celestial bronze work or not?
I think yes, because
The body is what matters.
Yes. So in the case of the crocodile, for instance, it wouldn't work because the crocodile is fully mortal.
Then let's move on to Norse, right? Would celestial bronze work on Norse mythology?
Ooh, because in the Norse mythology, the gods are physical as well.
But then we know that in Herjar weapons can hurt the gods.
Right.
Do we?
I'm not sure.
Does Magnus ever fight a god?
He's fought giants. I do not remember. I honestly,
Giants, okay, so in that case we can say that giants are basically on the same level as gods because we know that they can interrelate, like they can have their own.
Yeah, as the Greek
So
gods.
right, so
and Loki's part giant. And
right, so in that case, if in Herjar weapons can hurt giants, they can hurt gods.
are Jotun giants? I can't remember.
Yeah, the Jotun are the giants. So if in Herjar weapons and celestial bronze are on the same level, then celestial bronze can hurt Norse gods as well, which are a physical being.
I don't think so. And let me explain why. So generally, a celestial bronze can't hurt a
Mortal.
Yeah. And the only thing that makes you susceptible to celestial bronze is having, I'll call it a Greek spirit. So gods are obviously Greek spirits in their entirety, and so are hurt by celestial
Do we
bronze.
need Greek spirits?
And Percy Jackson has a Greek spirit but also a mortal body, and so celestial bronze works on him as well. But say a Norse god doesn't have a Greek spirit,
What about an Herjar?
and Inhager also doesn't. Unless it's
Alright, new idea.
Unless it's a Greek demigod who dies in battle and believes in the Norse gods, in which case he becomes an Inhager.
Okay, so for Percy, he believes in the Norse gods.
Yes.
So does he go into the underworld and face their judgment, or does he die in battle and go to Valhalla?
Oh no.
That's the whole issue with interrelating. It's basically the Freyr versus Valhalla thingy, but on such a larger scale where you don't. So I guess it's just, do the Valkyries come first or does Thanatos? But okay. Has there ever been any mention of any demigod in Valhalla? No, there hasn't.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess then Greek godship takes precedence over dying in battle. So if you have a Greek parent, you go to Elysium, or like Hades, basically. You go to Hades,
Okay, so
right?
headcanon.
Unless-
Just out of blue.
Right.
The pantheons have a pantheon that decides the rules. Because we need some structure. Like,
Right.
okay,
So,
so
I guess
what.
Hermes would be the diplomat from the Olympian side, since he's the god of
Right.
I think from
Heimdall.
Yeah, that would be the guy from Norse.
Or Odin himself, maybe. Because Odin
Oh.
does that sort of stuff, you know?
Right. So in that case, it would be Odin, Zeus potentially.
No, in the Hermes would be it.
Right.
Zeus would be like, it's
Oh,
below me.
True. So it's Hermes. It's supposed to be Zeus, but he sends Hermes because he's like that. Odin from the North side.
Who from the Egyptian? though?
Osiris probably.
Why?
because it's like Osiris is like that guy, right? Like he's the father of Horus,
But that still doesn't make
and he's the
any
king of the gods
sense.
before Horus, right? So I would assume it'd be Osiris.
But he's in the Duat as of right now with the Carter's father's body.
I mean, yeah, true.
So like, how is he going?
Does the meeting happen in the Duat or not? I would say no, because the Duat is primarily Egyptian.
If you're a Greek god going into the Duat, would be fatal, maybe.
Yeah, potentially. So you'd have to have a mortal presence to be. Oh, but we do know that before Carter's dad releases all the gods into the mortal world, there is no mortal presence of Greek gods for like 1,000 plus.
Greek gods, Egyptian
gods for 1,000 plus years.
So maybe they don't have a system?
Right. So they don't care because they're in the Duat and they don't have to talk.
What about Egyptian spirits?
Oh, then perhaps the House of Life is in that agreement then.
Okay, yeah, the House of Life's king, right?
Yeah.
Or whoever, basically.
Yeah. And then once his dad releases the 5 gods, they don't do anything because like Set is trying to destroy the world, so obviously he doesn't care.
But this would have to be on a different level of secrecy.
Right, yeah.
Because there has been no one who's mentioned it.
Yes.
before.
I mean, it's a headcanon, so I'd say, yeah. I would say after the books, when Carter and Horus become like the king of the gods, whatever, they do enter the pact.
Anyway, that he would probably have the logical sense to actually talk to the other pantheons.
Yeah, so he would be the representative of the House of Life. Once he dies, I guess the Stardens.
I guess it moves on to whoever comes next. Because during your inauguration, for lack of a better word, as the leader of the House of Life, you would probably be told the secret by some secret keeper.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
It's a simple system to actually set up.
Or maybe like someone from the pantheon approaches you and be like, okay, so you have a presence here.
Right, like how the minister of magic approaches the new president.
Yeah, I mean prime minister.
Right, that's it.
So in that case, what we're saying is basically that after the Jardins, I'm imagining that we have Amos, who's the new guy from House of Life. This does also make some sense since we know the mortal world and like each of the different spiritual worlds often have some sort of cohesion going on. Like we know World War II and the war between something like that. Like World
so in
War
that
II
case, how would the Egyptians and the Norse fit into World War II?
I'm not sure about that, but what I can say is it does make sense also that the deities would also have some sort of spiritual version of the UN, right?
Right, makes sense.
The Olympic Committee. Oh, sorry, that's
Olympic is like too Greek-centric. The God Council. God Council, headcanon, trademark, blah, 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 copyright, whatever. So
I can imagine every single time one of the mythologies tries to erase the world, there's some awkwardness on that council. Like Set tries to destroy the world and has to show up to
damn, man. And then not only that, like imagine how Percy like saves the world. And then the news travels to the House of Life and they're like, our heroes are so talk shit, they don't even do anything.
Yeah, I can imagine. We also don't know, but it's very possible House of Life has saved many catastrophes.
Right, probably, because especially like...
Iskander.
Yeah, because he was old.
Yeah.
So he probably like, at least like 1,000 years old, right?
Yeah.
So he would have been the like voice of reason between Hermes and Odin. No, actually, all of them seem pretty reasonable people.
Hence,
right. Or would there only be one representative?
I'd say one. From each different group involved in the spiritual...
So Romans?
I'd say Romans have a different...
Mars?
Yeah.
Mars makes sense.
Yeah.
He's your war god.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like the leader of Rome. So, yeah. So there's Mars
but
and the Romans.
Especially after like the whole of... Heroes of Olympus, the Roman and the Greek gods actually started like buddying up,
Even after that, it's like there's
before that as well, though.
Yeah, like
not different enough. Have you ever heard of a Roman pantheon sitting down?
Ooh.
It's always been the Greek pantheon.
I mean, we have never seen the Roman. I would say we don't see the Roman pantheon because
Rome never had Olympus.
No, because the Roman gods don't interact with the demigods so much.
Otherwise they did.
Would. No, there's the whole thing about how the Roman gods aren't as nice to the demigods as the Greek gods are. The point is,
Romans would have Lupa if they did have any.
Oh yes,
that makes sense. Yeah.
So perhaps then the Roman demigods have a separate presence than the Roman gods.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. Like because you've got Camp Half-Blood with its own presence, and then you've got Camp Jupiter with its own presence. For Camp Half-Blood, you can have Hermes, who can also run for the gods of Rome as well.
Because they're much closer. They are one entity, essentially.
Right. But then Camp Jupiter is a separate system from the Roman gods if they do have their own pantheon, council talks, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Because they've got their own leaders, far more positioned leaders like the Praetors. Whereas the Greek gods have Chiron, who's immortal and super close to the gods, being Zeus's brother and all that.
Right.
And then you've also got Dionysus for some time, which is basically put in place by the gods.
I don't think Dionysus would.
No, I'm just saying that it's a connection between the Greek gods and the Greek demigods, which is not present between the Roman gods and the Roman demigods.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a connection between Lupa and the Roman demigods, which makes sense for her to be their voice in the godly council.
I'd say not the Praetors, because they just not.
And there has been, and there was never been any mention to Percy of it, right?
Yeah.
If you're made a Praetor, you're gonna know about it.
I think that the reason the House of Life has a mortal representative like Iskander is because Iskander is like.
And the gods are spirits.
Also, like Iskander is half spirit.
Right, he's basically immortal.
Yeah, and also they don't have anyone to represent them.
Right.
Other than immortals.
I guess once like Carter comes in, he probably took it over.
Ooh.
Along with Horus.
Yeah, that
but the reason for Carter being there is because Horus needs a host. They can't do it without the host, right? So that would make sense.
And Amos isn't like spirit enough to be there.
Right.
So I think that does answer the question, which is heaven is not in the same plane, but each of the different planes.
Are we still on that question? I thought we went to like 4 different series in between. But made our own at this point.
Yeah. In conclusion, heaven is not in the same plane, but all the different planes of heaven are regulated by the council of spirits, I guess.
We might as well start like the Super Carlin Brothers, like a theory channel.
We might as well. Okay, the second theory is. There is a better chance of the Norse pantheon fading than Ragnarok happening.
The Norse pantheon doesn't have anything to do with fading. Fading was Greek specific.
Was it?
Yeah, I don't remember any mention of...
It's because we know there is, in Trials of Apollo, there is a Greek-Egyptian fusion god.
Right.
Who dies because of misremembering.
No, the Greek-Egyptian fusion god is part of like proper... mythology. Basically what happened is, you remember Alexander the Great? He goes from Rome, goes to Egypt and makes this fusion god basically. Right, so that makes sense. But Norse, you never had... The only fading as such was falling into the Gunninga Gap.
Oh, true. So, yeah.
Did I pronounce that right? Gunninga Gap?
I have no clue. The Norse gods are dependent on the 9 realms.
Right. So and the 9 realms are only going to go when Ragnarok goes.
Exactly. So no, that's not true.
And also, if they fade before Ragnarok happens, depending on who fades, Ragnarok will never be able to happen. So it would be in the favor of like the good gods, and I say that with a grain of salt, the good gods, to take out Loki, for example, force him to fade.
Yeah, but they don't. Yeah, they don't do that.
So
to be honest, no god has tried to make their enemies fade, even the Greek ones. So maybe they should try that.
I guess the Greeks don't really have god to god enemies as such.
But like
the level of Odin and Loki enemy.
Yeah, but they don't try to make like Kronos fade either, do they?
Well, they do their best. But no, they have a different definition of fade. Their definition of fade is forgetting.
Yeah, but
I'm going on the definition of fade of destroying every single particle.
Oh, right. Okay, the next theory. While most Greek demigods don't live till 20, Aphrodite kids tend to stay out of quests. Even then, they don't live long because they usually get killed by a scorned lover, since love and revenge go together.
You know what? Yes.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so you remember the whole Drew with Piper, the rite of passage?
Yeah.
That's bound to make enemies. And for example, like, I don't know, Drew herself would have a shit ton.
Yeah.
And
you think Aphrodite kids are killed by Aphrodite kids?
Not out of the question. Those people have a level of jealousy above the norm.
Yeah.
They see someone else shining. Like, we saw it with Drew.
Yeah.
She saw Piper shining, she had issues.
Yeah. I also think, like, the river spirits, the Maenas, I forgot what they're called. They also are known to be jealous. Sorry, not the river spirits. The Dionysus followers. I forgot what they're called. They're known to be like jealous types. So maybe they also contribute to a lot of deaths based for Aphrodite.
Right. I guess that, but Aphrodite kids would relatively have the higher statistic of not dying though.
Yeah.
Because like how many murderers are, and also you might have like Aphrodite kids being bad at what they at demigod stuff.
Yeah.
Like we know Piper's an exception, but if an Aphrodite kid actually went on a quest, dead.
I'm not sure dead, but definitely they'd be an Annabeth level.
The only,
but without the wisdom.
The only
like, they don't have powers, right? Is the point.
Example of a Aphrodite child going to war or battle is Selena.
Oh,
she died.
Yeah. Also, I think that's more because she went on a suicide mission in the first place.
Right, fair.
So I think it's the same thing, right? It's like...
Aren't all the quest suicide missions?
Fair.
Let's just recount them. Go to the underworld. That's a suicide mission. It's literally suicide.
It's a mission, I guess, sure. But like, the point was to... We know that the death and living have different spiritual signatures. Since whenever we go to the underworld, many people say, oh, you're not dead.
Right.
There is a difference in that case. And we know Percy went down to get his mom.
Right.
So whatever is the opposite of a suicide mission, that's what Percy's doing.
Is he?
Yeah, he's trying to at least. Like, I'm sure the gods mean for him to die, but he doesn't mean to die. That's the difference, I think, here. Whereas in Selena's case, she means to die.
But no, she doesn't mean to die, but it's a suicide mission in the case where it's foolish, which is what going to the underworld is. And going to the Sea of Monsters is. And going to fight Atlas is.
True.
And going into the labyrinth is.
I'd say Aphrodite kids don't have advantages their parents do. Like, for instance,
charm speak.
Hephaestus kids are strong. No, I mean, not like there's like a 1 in a million who has charm speak.
Drew, Piper, Selena.
Selena had charm speak?
Headcanon. Oh. Of course she did. She was such a... Selena is such a nice person.
So yeah, I think they do have... I don't agree with them. I think Aphrodite kids would be good enough for quests. It's just they don't go on.
Yeah, and we've also had the part of the like capture the flag where the Aphrodite kids just stare into the lake and fix their appearance. They don't even try.
Yeah. The next theory. Despite Rick saying Artemis is aromantic and asexual,
right?
She does like men, but does not marry, so she isn't controlled like most women who were back in ancient Greece.
Right.
Isn't that basically Greek mythology? Like, she was in love with Orion, but he ended up being a... So yeah, I think that's just the truth.
I don't know where Rick said that she was asexual, actually.
At my interview or something.
I don't look at Rick interviews. Hades? Also, we mentioned Artemis, so I might as well mention Pertimus. You know, I'm reading this fan fiction right now. It is super awesome. Basically, Camp betrays Percy. Then Percy goes and becomes your average, like, guardian of the hunt sort of trope.
Oh, wow.
But he falls for Artemis and is kicked out because he was a bit too slow to save one of the, like, hunters. He then goes and becomes a god and is forced to marry Artemis. And then 100 years later... they have a whole quest with another great prophecy, and now he's like confronting Artemis. I'm on like chapter 25, and it's super fun to read.
Yeah, we'll drop the link in the show notes below.
Also, Hestia adopts Percy. That's like one of my favorite tropes ever.
Oh, yeah.
It makes so much sense.
Does it?
And does it not? Hestia is like such a warm and loving goddess, and...
You know, I'm almost thinking, headcanon, there is no Hestia cabin, but after the cabins are made for like all the different gods, right? When Hestia gets a cabin, it becomes the new cabin for unclaimed kids.
Oh yeah, they should have done that from the beginning.
Yeah.
The Hestia would have no issue.
Yeah.
She would love it.
Yeah.
And it would also bring her the recognition, because if we remember, she said something like Nico was the only one who stopped and talked to her.
Yeah.
So they would give her that recognition that she 100% deserves.
Yep. And I love that, so I'm going to keep that.
Yeah, Hestia headcanon, she gets a cabin.
Continuing on, gods probably visit former mortal lovers a lot more than people think they do.
Yeah,
like
we
in
do.
Dreams and such.
Not even in dreams physically. May Castellan, Zeus with...
isn't she like...
Zeus with Thalia's mother.
Yeah. But isn't he like coming as two separate
Poseidon with
gods?
Sally. There wasn't a one-off thing. They dated for a good while.
Oh, true.
He
Yeah.
only left her when she
Maybe
found out she
gods
was
began
pregnant.
dating. It's a bit iffy, I know, and it's a bit outdated, I know. But there's the whole concept of the gods going with American culture.
I think the one night stand part works for like Apollo.
Yeah. So I
And-
think as American culture develops, so do the gods' cultures.
But
Like,
not by
when
much.
Americans start dating, gods start dating.
Eh.
I'm not sure.
Alright, what's next? What's next? Oh, something interesting.
Oh, this is a new theory which is kind of going on to the own one. Most gods stay with their mortal lovers for about a year to 15 months.
I don't know.
3 months dating, 9 months pregnancy.
no,
and
no,
then
no,
another 6
not
months
happening.
to say goodbye
Not
and make sure everything's
happening.
okay. This is not true because we know Poseidon left before Percy was born.
And Apollo, come on.
Yeah.
What are we
It-
here for?
It depends on the god's moral fibers. There's no rule or anything. It's just like
No, there are rules.
I mean,
With
no,
quotation marks, by the
no,
way.
no, there's no rules of like 3 months, 9 months.
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever.
no,
It's
nothing like that.
No, it's like there are rules saying you should do nothing.
If they feel like a one night stand, they will one night stand
I
100%.
think even Poseidon would one night stand someone who's in Sally. Like Sally is special for Poseidon.
Yeah, fair. Sally is special.
Most gods on Olympus have open marriages,
Hera gets mad.
and Hera gets married.
Hera gets
In
mad.
fact, in mythology, we know that the wives of the gods have hated the lovers, and that wouldn't be the case if there was an open marriage.
Right, Amphitrite hates Sally, and Persephone hates Maria.
Angelo. Yeah, so no, that's not true.
Not an
And
open
even
marriage.
if it is like an open marriage in quotes, the wives are not happy with that, and so it doesn't count as an open marriage. Continuing on.
Non-consensual open marriage.
Yeah. Clarice has a secret crush on Percy, and so that's why she picks on him a lot.
But no, not in canon stuff.
Yeah, no.
Because Clarice and what's his name? Labyrinth dude who goes crazy.
Daedalus?
No, the guy
Oh,
who went
Chris
to
Rodriguez.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it never made sense as a
I
ship.
mean, Clarice slash Percy is the same rationale as like Hermione slash Draco. It's like you're coming off of something that's just purely nothing and calling it romance.
Right.
So no. Thalia ex Percy could have potentially happened if Thalia never joined the Hunters and Annabeth died. No.
Annabeth died, Rachel would be number 2.
Well-
Their relation was supremely
Thalia ex Percy
sibling.
aren't-
No, their relation was sibling-esque
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah, they wouldn't.
Would not happen.
Yeah, it's like
It's a really nice ship to think about. I like a few fan
I like
fictions
them
with
like
it.
a friendship shape, honestly.
No,
like, that
really.
would be the best.
I mean, like, even as a proper ship, I've read some fan fictions, they're nice,
So you drop
but
some links.
canon, not really, no.
Uh,
Percy and Calypso, though.
yeah. Oh, well, yeah. See, I don't know.
Your other option is Leo and Calypso, and we all know what we think of that. Right, let's just do one more, and I guess that's it for today.
How much? If you renounce the gods and pledge allegiance to another pantheon, gods and other pantheons can't curse you.
What?
Notice how the gods couldn't curse slash harm enemy demigods while they were joining Kronos, and the Titans got stronger.
I'm a bit lost here. What? This is just like a repetition-ish sort.
Ooh, it's like the idea that if you pledge allegiance to a different god system,
Right.
other god systems can't hurt you unless you challenge them first. Right? Which means not,
That's the usual rule, isn't it?
but like even within the pantheon, so it's like if you pledge allegiance to the Roman gods, Greek gods can't hurt you.
Isn't that like the normal ruling?
Is that? I'm not
For the Greek gods, at the very least, you need a hero to challenge you before you can actually do anything.
The starting primordial gods, like Chaos, are all the same being,
Oh,
but
no.
just look and
Not
act. Yeah,
happening.
again, I said it's like
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
And we already know that capital G God is different from Chaos because of Chaos Pit in Tartarus and capital G God being deemed as separate from Greek mythology by Chiron. So, yeah,
true.
that won't work.
And that's pretty much all we have for today. This is, of course, a brand new podcast, and we have very little experience with it. So there will be issues and there will be mistakes we have made. But if you have any suggestions or any feedback on our episode, on this episode, please leave them in the comments if your app allows it. Or if you can't, email us at the nonamepodcast2025@gmail.com. We are also on Instagram at the nonamepodcast2025.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah,
Peace
thank
out.
you. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one. Thank you.